Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to session 4 of our workshop series. Today we will explore the power of constructing persuasive arguments using teal paragraphs and learn how this framework enhances argument clarity and organization. Another name for the teal paragraph structure is the Peel paragraph structure with a P. In this case, T stands for topic and P stands for point. They're the exact same thing. They just go by slightly different names. So if you've ever heard of the Peel paragraph structure, this is the exact same thing. So the first question we have is, what is a teal paragraph? So teal stands for topic, explanation, evidence, and link. It is a structured approach for building convincing arguments by providing a clear structure and flow to your ideas. So the basic idea of it is that one portion, the next portion of the paragraph should build on from the previous portion of the paragraph. So let's explore the teal paragraph structure and see how it can help you write more convincing arguments and make you a more effective debater. So let's get down to business, the parts of a teal paragraph. So the purpose of each part, as I just said before, each part of a teal paragraph is meant to build upon the part that came before it. So let's explore this writing structure and learn how to write logical and compelling arguments. So we begin with the role of the topic sentence. So that's the T in teal. The topic sentence is, yes, Tom.
I'm just raising my hand so that I can be first in line whenever there's a question. So I just do it.
Planning ahead.
That is how my brain works. A competitive brain.
Yeah, planning ahead. I like it. Okay, so the role of the topic sentence, or the T in teal. The topic sentence is the foundation of a teal paragraph. It introduces the main point you want to make, setting the stage for the rest of the paragraph. So let's see how we build on the topic sentence. So just a quick note before we do move on. I do have some example teal paragraphs to show you later in the presentation. So basically, you want to make sure that your topic sentence is short and straight to the point. It's not something that you want to drag out over multiple lines of writing. So after the topic sentence, we want to expand with the explanation. So that's the first E. The explanation is your chance to elaborate on and explain your topic sentence. This is where you offer context and details to help your audience understand your argument better. So that's why we want the topic sentence to be short and sweet, because during the explanation, you can take, usually it's between about 1 and another 3 or 4 sentences long. So that's your chance to fill in any extra detail you want your audience to know about. So yeah, just make sure, again, you keep your topic sentence short and sweet. So let's see how we can build on the explanation. So providing evidence, that's the second E. So evidence is crucial for supporting your argument. It can include facts, statistics, examples, or quotations that back up your claims. The important criteria to consider when selecting evidence is to make sure that it comes from a reputable source So I used this example this morning. So let's say we're having an argument, we're having a debate about living on Mars or traveling to Mars. So if I was to quote an article or a study written by NASA, everybody knows who NASA is, what they do. So if I was to quote an article or something from NASA and say, scientists believe that with the right amount of terraforming and the upgrades and updates coming to space travel, holidaying to or living on Mars may be feasible in the near future. You're going to believe that somewhat because it's come from NASA. Everybody knows who NASA is and what they do. But if I was to use, for example, this piece of evidence and say, oh, well, I was talking to my friend John who lives down the street, and he was saying that they reckon blah, blah, blah. The first thing you're going to think is, well, who's John? Why should I believe what he says? Why does his evidence matter? So that's the importance of making sure your evidence comes from a reputable source. It increases the chance that people are going to listen to it and believe it, and it increases the chance that people's opinion is going to be swayed by that evidence. You want to make sure that it is directly related to your topic. So in a debate, you have a broad topic of the overall topic of the debate. And we also have these individual arguments. So related to your topic in this instance means make sure it proves your argument that you're making right now. So again, going back to the space travel argument, if we were talking about, so if I was raising the argument of we need to terraform Mars or transform it so we have an environment that humans can live in, then I wouldn't bring up a piece of evidence that has to do with actually traveling to Mars because it's a different argument within that same topic. So we want to make sure the evidence you select is directly related to the argument you're raising at the time. That's a big one. And that anybody that reads or hears your evidence can understand it. So because a lot of our evidence relies on like scientific studies or statistics or quite advanced publications, sometimes they use very advanced and difficult words that even native English speakers, some of them struggle to understand. So we need to take that into account. And if you like the piece of evidence and it proves your point perfectly, you can do something that, oh God, I forgot the word for it. Not quoting. Oh, the words just escaped my head. But yeah, so what you can do is you can paraphrase, that's the word I'm looking for. So you can rewrite slightly the evidence into using words that you know everybody will understand while still maintaining the overall information from that original piece of evidence. And that's called paraphrasing, and that can be something to consider as well in preparing your evidence. Now, one last point that I'll make about evidence is, what was I going to say? Before we move on, I'll take some questions. So an important thing to consider is making sure that you do use lots of different types of evidence if possible. So I taught a few debating classes before, and the thing that I noticed was that the students overwhelmingly stuck to examples, which are, just like what I'm doing now, just giving you an example of something. So if you only use examples or you only use what they call anecdotes, which are just personal stories, it's good in the right situations, but if you use it too much or it's your only type of evidence you use, your arguments really start to lack credibility because you're not providing any information from outside sources. You're not quoting those outside sources. And yeah, your evidence, your arguments just start to fall apart or appear weak to the judges. So really put a lot of attention and effort into collecting and using your evidence. So that is an important thing. So I'll take a few questions now before we move on. Does anybody have a question they'd like to ask about what we've talked about so far? Ken, yes.
Teacher, I'd like to ask that if we use information from another source, a we trust the source, is that a plagiarism which is banned in debate?
No. So very good question, but there is a distinction there. So if I was to, so let's say that I was doing my research and I found an article about, again, moving to humans living on Mars. So if I just copied and pasted that and put it into my speech, and then I just read that speech as though I was the one that had written that information, that's plagiarism, that's bad. But if you use it as evidence and you make sure that you quote the person or the organization that information came from, so for example, a scientific study conducted by scientists at NASA found that, and then I use that information, that is not plagiarism because I'm giving credit to the people that created that argument or that created that information or found that information. So that's the difference there. If you use it as evidence and you quote the person it came from, that's not plagiarism. But if you take that information and you speak it as though you're the one that found that information or you're the one that wrote that speech, then that is plagiarism and that is bad. Good question, Ken. Thank you very much. So let's see now how we tie the paragraph together with the linking sentence. So the linking sentence connects your evidence back to your main argument. It should demonstrate how your evidence supports and strengthens your argument. So I've mentioned this a few times before, and I believe Miss Sophia mentioned it. Miss Sophia never did the afternoon classes, sorry. So we've mentioned a technique called signposting before. And signposting is where you make it abundantly clear where you're up to, what you're talking about. So at the end of your introduction by saying, I would now like to go on and present my arguments. My first argument is, my second argument is, those sorts of lines in your speech that let people know what you're doing. This is kind of similar, or this is another a variant on that technique because it makes it obvious. Lots of information is given during a debate, and as hard as people try, their brains are just going to melt out of their ears if they try and remember it all. So we make it obvious and we recap all the important information to help the judges digest bite-sized pieces of information that they can remember about your case. So that's what you're aiming to do with your linking sentence. Just tie it all back together and remind them of what the issue is. Okay. So before we go on to strategies for persuasion, does anyone have any questions before we move on? John. Okay. Timmy, do you have a question?
Okay, so for the TEAL format, can I ask, like, how does it fully apply onto a debate structure or a essay structure?
So I heard the essay structure. What was the other structure that you were asking about?
Oh, it's called like a debating structure, the TEAL
Oh,
format.
debate
Yes.
structure.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, because I heard of PEAL, but I haven't heard of TEAL before.
Oh, so
Yes.
Teal and Peel are the exact same thing. It's just in one version, the P stands for point and the T stands for topic sentence. But other than that, it's the exact same thing. I do have a few example paragraphs coming up later in the presentation. But yeah, so if you're writing an essay or you are speaking in a debate, this writing structure is so valuable because it is the most logical way of presenting your ideas. So your first sentence, you produce a simple sentence that introduces your topic or your point. Just forgotten the first E, explanation. So the explanation then expands on that. That's where you add in details and the nuances and the context. So you really hone in on which particular issue you're talking about. Then your evidence supports your explanation and your topic. It proves the point you're trying to make. And then the linking sentence just reminds everybody of how you have achieved that goal of proving that point. Okay, so for this next bit, I am going to bring up a Word document because I didn't have the space on the slide to, so I didn't have the space on my slide to have these descriptions. So these are just 5 random persuasive techniques that I've chosen that will help your debate arguments. There are dozens and dozens of others, I would say. But we'll go through these 5 and then you can research some other ones if you're interested. And I do recommend further research into these techniques. So the first one is use vivid and evocative language. So vivid just means really clear, bright, and obvious. So we're using obvious and deliberate language. And evocative means to evoke something. So to try and get your audience to feel a certain way. I'm trying to evoke a response. So employing descriptive and emotionally charged language to make your points more engaging and memorable. This helps to create a stronger connection between your argument and your audience's emotions. So human beings are very, very emotional creatures, as I'm sure you guys have experienced. So a very good persuasive technique is to try and elicit an emotional response from the judges and from your audience. Because if you can get them to feel a certain way, if you can get them to feel how you want them to feel, maybe even feel how you feel, then you've got a very good chance of persuading them to believing your side of the argument. It also helps to make your speeches, again, more engaging. So it makes everybody want to pay attention and it makes them more memorable. So it's more likely that the judges and the audience will remember what you've said after you've stopped speaking. The second one is actually part of the Teal structure, but it's provide strong evidence. So ensure that the evidence you include is robust. So it includes all the necessary details that you need. It's relevant. So it's on point for the argument you're trying to prove. And again, it comes from a credible source. So again, it comes from scientists at NASA versus my mate John, who lives down the street. People need to know and they need to have some trust in where that evidence comes from, or else it's, why does it matter? Why should I believe? Because strong evidence adds credibility to your argument and it makes it more persuasive. So if you use, again, if you come from that position of authority, so like NASA for space travel, or for, it's the only example I can think of off the top of my head right now because I've been talking about it. But yeah, if you have your evidence come from a credible source, your audience is more likely to believe you and trust in what you say. Another good technique is addressing counter arguments. So this isn't a major part of a specific argument you're giving, but it's something that you can include every now and then. But if you address a point of view that your opponents might take, then one, it shows that you have thought about this issue from more than one perspective. It shows that you have a well-rounded knowledge on this topic and you haven't just read a few books to find some arguments to make your case. It shows that you've actually, that you know what you're talking about, you know, the good and the bad. The second thing it does is it also takes away a possible line of attack from your opponents. So if you just mention a counter argument and say, for example, my opponents may try and say blah, 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 but here's evidence to prove that's wrong, then you've instantly taken away, you've taken away something that they can possibly use against you, because if they try and say that, you've already given this evidence that's proved that wrong. So now they can't really say that unless they've done a lot of advanced research and come up with counter evidence. But now we're just building too many layers and making it too complicated. So yeah, so addressing counter arguments is a good way to be persuasive. So yeah, again, it demonstrates that you've considered alternate perspectives and it strengthens your position. So it makes you seem like you know what you're talking about, and it also takes away a line of attack from your opponents. Number 4 is appeal to logic and reasoning. So if we use logical reasoning, if we appeal to logic and reasoning, as well as being emotional people that feel things and sometimes react to how we feel about an issue, human beings are also very logical creatures. So for some people, emotion is not enough. Sometimes they might need to go, hang on, but that doesn't make sense. So if you structure your arguments well, so again, using this teal structure, if you make sure that your logic is correct when you present your arguments, as well as reducing chances of counter arguments, you also, if you can make your audience go, yeah, that makes sense. Yep, I can see how that works. Yep, that makes sense. If you can keep them agreeing with you, then you're going to increase the chances that they will agree with you in the end. Tom, did you have a question?
What if we do counter arguments and then they make a counter argument, and we know a counter argument? Do we out?
So things like that, hang on, I'm just going to shut the curtains here because it's quite bright. Forgive me.
Like for example, somebody makes an argument, we make a counter argument. They make a counter argument, and we have a counter argument.
So I understand the question. So the good thing about a debate is that it is a finite time. So you have a start time, you've got your allowed speaking time, you've got rebuttal, counter arguments, and everything like that. So it really shouldn't go any further than maybe 2 or 3 counters. But that is just another reason to make sure you're well prepared for your debate in advance. So if you make an argument, they might have a rebuttal or a counter argument. Can you counter that? Can they counter that? So it's just that really all comes down to knowing, that comes down to how well you know and understand the topic of the debate. Yeah, and just being able to make sure that you've got a list of good points available so that you are able to counter anything your opponents throw at you. But realistically, it shouldn't come down to any more than about 2 or 3 counters. Okay, so just finishing off point number 4. So clear and sound logic can be very persuasive. So just make sure that your arguments all make sense and that the audience can follow along with them. And number 5 is tell compelling stories. So this is another minor one, but it still can help you out a lot all the same. So if you can incorporate anecdotes or personal stories or real life examples that illustrate the impact of your argument, then you can create a lot of relatability with the audience. So again, you want to stick to as much empirical evidence as possible. So facts, statistics, scientific studies, so on and so forth. But if you are able to, maybe just tell one little story every now and then and create a reaction in the audience where they go, I can relate to that, or something similar has happened to me, then that plays to their experience or to their knowledge as such. So that makes them able to relate to what you're saying, and people like what they can relate to. So again, if they can relate to what you're saying, they're going to want to like and agree with what you're saying. So it can be very, very persuasive to include one or two personal stories, but again, don't overdo it. Try and use facts, statistics, and more empirical data to support your arguments as well. Tom, do you have another question? Ken.
Teacher, so in this debate tournament, are there any audience? Are there any voters?
So the judges will be entirely responsible for deciding the winners. However, we will be making all of the debates available to live stream on YouTube. So all your parents and anyone else that wishes to watch these debates will be able to watch like an audience. But yeah, so whenever I say audience, I generally mean whoever is watching and listening. So that can include the judges and the moderator, because they are watching and listening to the debate unfold as well. Okay. So do we have any questions about strategies for persuasion before we move on? Tom.
Okay, so what if like two people tell something relatable? Like what if the proposition team says something that everybody can relate to, but then the opposition team says something that everyone can still relate to? Then who will be better?
That is a very good question. So it's not just one thing that's going to decide the outcome of the debate. So you've also got things like playing to their logic, to their logical reasoning with how you structure your arguments, the evidence you present. You've got the emotional factor as well. So how it makes them feel and how they feel or how they think they should feel about this debate as well. So it really all comes down to the overall product, who is the most well-rounded team, or which team has presented the most well-rounded arguments. So including your persuasive techniques, your emotional appeals, your logical reasoning, the structure you use, can they follow along? Can they understand? So it's really a bigger picture thing, but these are just some of the smaller parts we're looking at. So it could honestly be any number of factors. Unfortunately, this is not something I can give you a straight answer that will guarantee. Timmy.
Yes, so the techniques in the two paragraphs, but can you give some examples of evocative language? Because it's not very common. The evocative language, because it's not very common. It's not very common.
Yeah, so good question. So I do have, let me find my example here. My apologies, guys. Give me just 1 minute to find an example for you. So really, so I suppose you could also use the term descriptive language as opposed to evocative language, because the more descriptive that you are, the more of a picture that you can paint for your audience. So just for example, so I'm going to try and paint a picture in your head. So if we were talking about, so if I was talking to you and I said plate mail or chain mail instead of armor, that might create a more descriptive picture in your head because I've used more detail. So am I talking about the type of armor that's just all the big plates of armor that go all over the body? Or am I talking about the finer chainmail worn by the commoners in England back in the old times? Or another example would be, am I talking about a vault? Sorry, I should say, if I say, imagine a car, for example, there's not like, you don't have any other information to go on, just imagine a car. Some of you might imagine like a fancy Porsche, or some of you might imagine a Volkswagen Beetle. Some of you might imagine a Toyota Corolla. But if I say, I want you to imagine a Maserati, or I want you to imagine a Lamborghini, you'll get a more clear picture in your head. And that's what evocative language means. So the more descriptive I can be, the better response I can get from my audience, the clearer the picture I can paint in their heads. So that's what evocative language is. You can also apply that to emotional responses. So if I say, I don't know, for example, let's say that I didn't watch where I was going and I stubbed my toe on the door frame. I could say, oh, that hurt. And it kind of creates a generic picture in your head what I'm feeling. If I say, oh, that really aches, you can kind of imagine that dull throbbing happening in my foot more so than if I just say, oh, that hurts. So that's what evocative language is. I'm trying to paint a very clear picture in your head to elicit a specific reaction or feeling from you. Okay, so having a look here at the coherence and organization. So organization, how you structure your arguments in your speech, and coherence simply means, does it make sense to the people listening? So remember, a teal paragraph is a tool to enhance the overall clarity and organization of your arguments. They should make it easier for your audience to follow your thought process and understand the argument that you are presenting. So basically what that means is, in a debate, if your audience, including the judges, cannot understand the points that you're trying to make, then that's not on them for not being able to understand it. That means you haven't structured your perhaps you haven't structured your argument logically enough. The points don't flow from one to the other. It's kind of like talking here, then I'm talking there, and I'm talking here, and I'm talking there. Kind of got to go all over the place to connect the dots. Or it could be maybe that you're using too many advanced words that people don't know the meaning of. So these are all things to consider in your coherence and organization of your arguments. So again, the goal is to be understood, believed, and sided with by as many people as possible, specifically the judges though. So we're now going to have a look at some teal paragraphs or teal in practice. We're going to have a look through some examples to see how the teal paragraphs can be applied in real-world situations. So we see down the bottom there, I've got topic sentence in red, explanation in green, evidence in blue, and linking sentence in orange. So these examples, so these examples, I've color-coded them so you can see which part of the paragraph we're currently reading. Now we've got 3 paragraphs to look at, and 2 of them are short form, 1 of them are long form. So that means the third one is going to have more detail in it and it's going to be longer. So we start, our first topic is the importance of reading. So I'll read it out and then we'll discuss it. So reading is a fundamental skill that enriches our lives. Reading allows us to explore different worlds, cultures, and perspectives through literature and non-fiction texts. Studies have shown that individuals who read regularly tend to have better cognitive abilities, empathy, and communication skills. These benefits highlight the importance of promoting reading among all age groups as a means of personal growth and understanding. So let's go back through it. So the first topic, or the first sentence, we've got our topic sentence, or if it's a peel paragraph, that's our point. So reading is a fundamental skill that enriches our lives. Short, sweet, straight to the point. We then expand on that with our explanation. So why is it a fundamental skill? Why does it enrich our lives? So reading allows us to explore different worlds. So that is, say, for example, if you're reading Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, you can immerse yourself in the wizarding world or Middle Earth, really get that vivid picture in your head. You get to explore it, jump into it. You can explore different cultures if you're reading an encyclopedia or even a cooking book from a different country. It's teaching you something about a culture and a country that is different to your own. And you can explore different perspectives through literature and nonfiction texts. So going back to wanting to understand, going back to wanting to understand both sides of the debate to be able to make the best possible case for your own. A good way to do that is to start reading or start studying texts that have different viewpoints from your own. So you broaden your mind, you learn new things, and it's there. This is a great chance to do that. Ken, I see that hand going mental. What's up?
Teacher, so if is it does an argument weaken if we don't tell the audience the source and just say that studies show that something blah blah blah?
Yes, so you can do that, but so that is acceptable. However, it's kind of like the weakest version of evidence. I do have some more examples or different ways to write your evidence in the following paragraphs.
And can we make up a sentence, for example, can we say that studies have shown that something, and I mean, if there are no studies showing.
No, so if the study doesn't exist and you cannot find the information, do not make up evidence. In a real debate, where you're actually presenting, do not make up evidence. You want your evidence to be true and correct, because that's exactly what it is. It's supposed to be proving your point. So if you do not, so if there's no evidence, don't use the argument, use a new argument. But I suppose you could call this form of evidence like summary evidence, because it says studies have shown. It doesn't specify the studies, and it's just showing that individuals who read regularly tend to have better cognitive abilities. So it makes your brain work better, it makes you smarter. It gives you a bigger sense of empathy, so it allows you to feel how it feels to be the other person. and it improves your communication skills. So it's not really going into specifics like maybe listing percentages or statistics or anything like that, but it's summarizing what the evidence says. And then finally, it's going to link back to the topic sentence. These benefits highlight the importance of promoting reading among all age groups as a means of personal growth and understanding. So again, it's taking the explanation and the evidence, and then it's tying it all back to the topic sentence. So let's go on and have a look at our second. Let's go on and have a look at our second paragraph. This one is about the benefits of exercise. So regular exercise is essential for maintaining good health. Engaging in physical activity improves cardiovascular health, increasing energy levels, and enhancing overall well-being. The American Heart Association recommends at least 150 minutes of moderate exercise per week to reduce the risk of heart disease. These health benefits emphasize the importance of incorporating exercise into our daily routines to lead healthier, more active lives. So again, we go back to the topic sentence, short, sweet, straight to the point. The only reason that it goes beyond one line is because of words like, most of the words in that sentence are quite long, but it's short and sweet. It's only 8 words long. We then go on to increase on or explain further our topic sentence. So engaging in physical activity improves cardiovascular health. So we're talking about making our heart stronger, making them more healthy. It increases our energy levels. So it makes us more able to do more hard work, and it enhances our overall well-being. So it's good for your heart, it's good for your energy levels, and it just makes you overall healthier. We now go on to a bit more specific evidence. The American Heart Association recommends at least 150 minutes of moderate exercise per week to reduce the risk of heart disease. Now, full disclosure, I just wrote these paragraphs. I did synthesize this, this evidence, but when you actually, that's just purely to show you the structure of how this should be written. But when you do your own research and your own arguments for the debates, do the research, use proper evidence. And then finally, we tie it all back. So we mention all of these health benefits. They emphasize the importance of incorporating exercise. So we go back to that topic sentence and we talk about into our daily routines to lead healthier, more active lives. So that is the summary. Cardiovascular, that's just talking about so cardiovascular is your heart and or heart, lungs, and blood vessel system throughout your bodies. Yeah, that's what cardiovascular is. And now we go on to a more long form version of the teal paragraph. So we see there's our topic sentence, our explanation, our evidence, and our linking sentence. So I'll read it out. So this is the impact of technology on education. Actually, all right. So technology has revolutionized the field of education. Digital tools and online resources have made learning more accessible and interactive, enabling personalized learning experiences. Technology has bridged geographical barriers, connecting students and educators worldwide, allowing them to collaborate and exchange knowledge in unprecedented ways. Additionally, adaptive learning platforms have revolutionized the classroom, catering to individual learning styles and pacing. A study by the World Economic Forum found that technology integration in education has the potential to increase learning outcomes by up to 36%. Furthermore, online courses and digital libraries have made education more inclusive and flexible, accommodating learners of all ages and backgrounds. This evidence underscores the transformative role of technology in modern education and the need for continued innovation in this field. Embracing technology in education not only enhances the learning experience, but also equips students with the digital skills necessary for success in the 21st century. So let's go back over that and have a look. So even though we have all of this extra information and all this much more formal language, the longer words, the more detail, the first thing we noticed is that the topic sentence is still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's only 7 words long. Very short sentence, straight to the point. We then go on to add all the detail in the explanation section. So that's very important. So we make our point straight to the point, short and sweet. We then add all the detail into our explanation. So we'll just have a look at some of this. So digital tools and online resources have made learning more accessible and interactive, enabling personalized learning experiences. So take Zoom, for example. I'm able to communicate with you over video so you can see me. You can see my facial expressions, any hand gestures I make. You can see my posture. Am I slumping down or am I sitting up? So you can see that and interpret information still from the speaker. You've got, again, the microphone, so you can hear the information. And you've also got these slideshows that we can prepare for you. So you've got lots of different ways to still be able to interpret the message, much like you would be able to in a live classroom setting. But you can personalize it a bit more. So you can focus more on the audio, more on the notes, more on the speaker, however you learn best. Technology has bridged geographical barriers. So you guys are all in Vietnam, I'm in Australia. Without Zoom, we wouldn't be able to have this lesson right now. So it's opened up the world for people to learn off of each other. And it allows people to collaborate and exchange information in unprecedented ways. So unprecedented simply means there wasn't a precedent set for this before. This has never happened before. So this is still new technology. So additionally, adaptive learning platforms have revolutionized the classroom. So we can use similar technologies in the classroom and we can cater to individual learning styles and pacing. So if students learn slower than others or faster than others, or if they learn in different ways, we can use technology to maximize the good ways for each student. So we're really expanding on the benefits of technology and the impact that it's had on students' ability to learn. We now go into the evidence section. A study by the World Economic Forum found that technology integration in education has the potential to increase learning outcomes by up to 36%. So this is the ideal way to cite your evidence. A study, so you know what form of evidence I'm using, by the World Economic Forum, you know who the evidence has come from, has found that, and then I go on to list the results. And you can see there I've used a statistic. Furthermore, so just more benefits, online courses and digital libraries have made education more inclusive and flexible, accommodating learners of all ages and backgrounds. So if I was to say pre-record these workshops and put them up online, perhaps for purchase from an online course or an online library of videos, that would give me the ability to say, record this lecture and record it 3 or 4 times using different languages and different amounts of detail and different levels of advancement in the English language. And I could target those different lessons to 4 or 5 different audiences, depending on how many videos I release. So I can increase the audience that way, get the information out to more people that may want to be able to learn it. It can also, that makes it inclusive, and as well, it makes it more flexible because If you only understand, say, basic English, you might want to watch the more basic version. But you can be, but you have the ability to be flexible. So once you learn the more advanced English, you can watch the more advanced videos. And it can also flexible in the sense that I don't have to be there for you to take this lesson. So you can take it early in the morning if I'm still asleep. You can take it late at night if I've gone to bed, whenever your timetable allows. And it accommodates learners of all ages and backgrounds. So if you have access to the internet and a computer or a tablet, you can watch those lessons. So now we link it all back to, we link all the evidence and the explanation back to the topic sentence. This evidence underscores the transformative role of technology in modern education and the need for continued innovation in this field. So the evidence has shown that this technology has transformed the way people are being able to learn. And that we need to continue to innovate, because while it's amazing now, it's still got a long way to go. There are still problems we have with the technology. Embracing technology in education not only enhances the learning experience, so not only does it make it better, but it also teaches students the digital skills necessary to be able to succeed in the 21st century. So nowadays, everything is online. If you want to work from home, or if you want to work with AI to automate things in a business you may run. So it's also pointing out that you get a double benefit from this. Not only do you get to learn your topic material, you learn how to work with the technology behind it to be able to incorporate that technology in other parts of your life. So we see there all of this detail. The room is so dark because I shut the curtains and now I need to turn on a light. But yes, I'll take some questions now. Ken, what's your question?
Do we use advanced English in debating? I mean, advanced English is good, but the audience can get confused. So what do you recommend? So
I would say find a balance. So remember, at the end of the day, it is the judges you are trying to impress and persuade. So if you're dealing with advanced judges, like older judges that have a very good understanding of the English language, then yes, use more formal English. If it's younger, less experienced judges that are still learning, maybe slightly less formal, but we don't want to be informal to the point where we're saying, like, where we're talking about, "G'day, yeah, I was talking to this guy around the corner and he said blah, blah, blah," you know, where it's just really common English. You do want to sound as formal as possible. But as well, that also applies to, you need to understand what you're saying as well. Because if you don't know what certain words mean, so if you don't understand what certain words mean, don't use them, because chances are you'll be using them in the wrong context and it's going to change the meaning of what you really mean to say. Okay, so now we're just going to do some questions and answers to finish out this first hour. So Tom.
Why do you even need to why do you even need to turn on the lights? Just open the curtains a little.
Because it was too bright outside. Then it flashes
Just
on
open
the
the
screen
curtains a little. You're wasting electricity. You're wasting electricity, you know. Save power.
I mean, I'm just happy to sit here in the dark. The light that you see is just bouncing off my computer screen.
Okay. Okay. Since
All right.
Since I'm lazy, can you mute me? I'm lazy.
Timmy, what's your question?
Spanish or vanish?
Pardon?
Spanish or vanish?
Spanish or vanish?
Yes.
What do you mean? Should I speak Spanish or should I disappear?
No, to Spanish or to vanish. It's the lingual speech.
Ah.
Yes?
I don't understand. To Spanish or to vanish?
It's a choice to Spanish or to vanish.
Well, I mean, I like the Spanish language, so I'll say Spanish.
Oh, okay.
You make it sound like I just agreed to donate my liver to somebody. I'm kind of scared now.
Uh, it's a Duolingo old joke. Okay, and I also do have a question. Is that what is the ordering for the evidence and the information? Because in a debate we do have to give examples, have to give clue, we have to give some hooks and add-ons, or even some questions, and we have to give it evidence. But can we just make a reason that goes with only the evidence and the information?
So with this structure, so keep in mind, this is just a basic structure for your arguments. But this way does seem to have the most logic to it. So if you're building on what I'll say it a different way. As long as you're building on what you've said before, so you go from here to here to here, and you're not kind of going from here, bouncing to over there, and you've got to go back down here, and you've got to kind of connect the dots for your logic. As long as you're not bouncing around all over the place, then it's fine. But yeah, for the beginner debaters that have never experienced this stuff before, please do stick to this format of writing, because it is the best basic way to formulate strong arguments. But yeah, again, as you get more experience, as long as you can connect the dots logically and you're not jumping around all over the place, then you can write your speech really however you want to, with questions and counter arguments and rebuttals and everything in it. Stephen.
What does debate help us improve?
Good question. So so debate is, so if you look at debate as a list of skill, or if you look at being a good debater as requiring a certain list of skills, it requires things like critical thinking, analytical thinking. So the ability to look at something and diagnose a problem, and the ability to start from that problem and work your way. Why are people changing the speaking language to English, to Russian and Ukrainian? Sorry, but yeah, so analytical thinking is where you start from the problem and you're able to work towards the solution. So skills like that are going to help you in every aspect of your life. So if you're planning an event, or you're running a business, or even just at your job, if you're a mechanic, for example, if there's a problem with the car, or one of your vendors, one of your caterers has to pull out of the event at the last minute, the ability to think critically and analytically, that's what's going to help you find out what's wrong with the car and go, oh, does it just need new spark plugs, or does the oil in the engine need to be emptied, or what's the problem? It helps you diagnose and work towards a solution, and that works in any situation. It also teaches you valuable communication skills. So if you don't have good communication skills, you can't get what you want. You're not able to ask people. You're not able to ask people for what you want, tell people what you need. There are lots and lots of other skills that debate will help you develop. I mean, for one, debate is actually a very commonly used form of communication within governments. So when they're working out which laws they should put on the books, which laws they should take away, what laws they should change, they use debate as the method of discovering that. Yeah, they use debate as a method of coming to those conclusions. So whether you look at debate itself as a skill, or the skills you need to be good at debate, it's going to have, and plus as well, the fact that debating is arguing, you learn how to argue. So that actually took me a long time to learn. I had used to be very, very, very poor at communication skills, and I would get frustrated. Okay. Just while I finish this, I'm just going to turn off chats for a moment. Okay, so yeah, when I was younger, I used to be very bad at communication because I never learned how to communicate properly. I could talk, I could speak, but I never learned how to talk to people. So as a result, I was never able to get maybe what I was feeling or what I wanted, what I needed. I was not able to tell people that information. And so as a result, because I couldn't communicate with them, they couldn't understand what I was saying in a way. And that led to me getting very frustrated and very angry. So instead of telling people what I needed or what I wanted, I just find myself getting angry and yelling at them, going, why can't you understand? I'm saying it. But I never stopped to look and go, well, maybe, yes, I'm saying it, but maybe I'm not saying it very well. So if you can learn to argue like you do in a debate, and teaching you things like emotional control and not getting too heated, then you can communicate with people, because you'd be amazed at what you can say to people if you're not yelling and screaming at them. Like, I guarantee if I was explaining this to you right now, but I was screaming at you like, and you need to, you guys, this guy's a freak, get away. But if I, for example, needed to correct you on something maybe you were doing wrong, you'd be more likely to listen if I was talking to you like this and say, like, you did a good job, but you need to think about how you use your evidence more, get it from reliable sources, research like this. So yeah, people will listen to less good things if it's being said in a bad way, but they'll listen to more bad things if it's said in a good way. So those sorts of communication skills can be extremely valuable to you in your life. Okay, so we're going to do the breakout room portion of the lesson now. So let me go find Ms. Duck, and we'll get on to that. So give me just a moment. I'll be right back with you guys. Okay, so I've spoken to Ms. Duck, and what we're going to do today for the breakout rooms, excuse me, we're going to have some practice debates. So you've all learned a lot now about how a debate functions, the structure of it, the roles of the people involved and what they have to do. So what we're going to do now is we're going to place you in these, breakout rooms. And you're all going to have a mock debate today. So you're going to pick 2 teams of 3. We'll have a moderator, a judge, and yeah, we're just going to have a go at these debates, practice. And the topic of today will be, what we discussed last week. Should everybody learn to speak English? So yeah, work out your teams. The student helpers will be the judges and the moderators. And basically, as soon as you've finished with this debate, you are free to go. You can leave the meeting, be done with today. Yes, Summer.
I heard you say something about debate, and like, what do you mean by it?
So basically when everybody goes into the breakout rooms, we'll form 2 teams of 3, and we're going to have a mock debate. So the topic will be what we discussed last week. should everybody learn to speak English? And yeah, we'll just have two
Like-
teams, three.
But how like 3 teams debate with each other?
So 2 teams of 3 speakers. So 2 teams, 3 people. And then the student helpers that are in the room with everybody, they will be acting as the judges and the moderators of the debate.
Okay,
So
thank you.
you're very welcome. So yeah, I'll leave that up to all of the student helpers to organize all of that. Ken,
Teacher, what is SH Nga number?
pardon?
What is SH Nga room?
What is SH?
No, I mean what is SH Nga SH Nga room? What room should I join?
You will be assigned to a room. So yeah, you guys will be assigned to a room shortly. Ben,
If I forgot what, if I don't know a question, can I ask the moderator what should I do?
yeah, if you have a question, ask the moderator to, ask the moderator to the questions you have. Went brain foggy there for a second. Timmy.
Wait, and also like what room will we in? Because will we train in a breakout room or will we training in this room instead?
So everyone will be assigned to a breakout room as much as possible. As much as possible, we're going to try and keep you away from your regular assigned student helpers because
Yes.
we want to try to we want to avoid, shall we say, unintended favoritism.
Oh, I get it. Yes, thank you.
No worries. Yes, Moon, I see you.
Okay, so I'm asking that what room am I gonna be, because I see room 1, room 2, room 3, room 4, room 5, room 6, and I don't know which room to go in.
Give me a few moments. I will talk with Miss Duck and I'll find out about room assignments. Okay, I'll be right back, guys. Gonna go talk to Miss Duck. Okay, so I've received instructions. So everybody select a breakout room to join. So you guys get to select it. Just make sure that you join a room that your assigned SH is not in. So we want to try and give you different SHs today for the debates. Bill.
I see that I in a breakout room 1, but I cannot see everyone. They are in and out, in and out. Just that.
Ah, okay.
No one there.
Okay, so let me. I'm just going to pick a few. Okay, so I have assigned people to your room. So whenever you're ready, just head on in and you can begin your practice debates. Jennifer.
Mark, can you go to room 1, Mark? Mình đang vào breakout room, các bạn ngoài này. Các bạn vào phòng đi con. Vào phòng theo cái danh sách, hoặc là nếu không thì có thể chọn phòng nào cũng được. Lily nè. Diễm My nè, con vào phòng đi. Diễm My, John, Ken, Molly.
Sorry, Mr. Michael, my computer self-destructed.
What happened, Tom?
Các bạn ơi, mình đang breakout room, thành ra các bạn vào phòng đi ha. Annie nè.
Cô.
An Nhiên hả? Con vào phòng số 1 đi.
Dạ cô ơi,
Số
cô.
4 đi. Rồi cô đưa con vào phòng số 4 rồi đó.
What's up, Dorothy? Yeah, I'll stay.
You're so early. The breakfast room, didn't you? Here, okay, so I will enjoy
Okay. Okay, that's all.
We haven't even finished the debate.
All right. Well, it is It
That's
is
a
for-
shame.
it is 4 o'clock now, so I'm just going to wait for everybody to join the room, the main room
Can we
again.
have extra 5 minutes? I just need to listen to everyone's speech in the breakout room.
Well, I've got to be excuse me. I've got to be going now anyway, so we do have to close the call. But make sure that you, oh, hang on, everyone's coming back in now.
I didn't even get to
Okay, so I just wanted to say to everybody, make sure that you are practicing your teal paragraphs this week. Keep in contact with your student helpers, get all the help you need.
Hey,
And
who the hell just changed the language of the captation?
what language
Yeah.
what language did they change it to?
I'm pretty sure that was some gibberish or Russian or maybe. I'm
No,
just
German.
seriously
They
confused.
changed it to German.
Oh wait, they
Russian.
changed it in
Russian.
German.
Then is not needed, so stop caring about it. We can change the caption to Japanese. Does it matter? No.
Anyway, so next weekend,
It's just a caption. The miss about it. It's just accessory. We continue into the classroom, please.
I didn't
wait,
even
also,
try to learn Japanese.
Also, Mister, so can we extend the time because their debate wasn't done. Our team's debate wasn't done.
I've got to
Yes.
get going, so I can't be here. So,
Oh.
but yeah,
Oh.
so I'm just going to finish this up, and then we'll reconvene next Sunday. But again, keep in contact with all of your student helpers. Practice all the things you need to. Remember, your student helpers are there to help you guys learn how to debate. So please take advantage of the opportunity these wonderful kids are affording you. Next week, the subject will be preparing effective rebuttals and writing reply speeches. So we're going to be putting the final parts on the actual debate speeches and how to write them and what to focus on. And then the week after that, we're going to be doing just a basic rundown of how to deliver the speech as well. So I'll see you guys next Sunday. Have a good week. Make sure you practice. Bye, everyone. Yes, we are done. Goodbye, everyone.